Hello, everyone. I know some faces. So I'm Ale, and I am a brain scientist. What is a brain scientist? So I do research in neurodegenerative diseases, specifically ALS. I will talk about it later. But why did I decide to become a brain scientist? Did I have the vocation from when I was little? Did I grow up with it? So when I was 4, I remember my mom bought me this big book. It was massive. It was an atlas of the human body, and I loved it because I loved knowing how things worked. I was all the time like, Mom, how does the washing machine work? Mom, how does the fridge work? Mom, how does it? I must have been so tiring. So basically, I could find how the human body worked, and that was impressive. So I just took the book, and I just drew characters on it, like this is the guy who goes here and drops this piece of information in this part of the body, and I just draw characters all the time as a little child, and I loved it. I still draw some things, but terrible. So I look at the book now and I realize how complete it was, and it sparkled that thing in me of wanting to know how things work. I already had it, but even more. So basically, you would also understand why I became a scientist when you understand my other passion in life, which is cooking. I love cooking, and I love following recipes and then changing and twisting them, and then finding out that what I made was trash, and then just put it under the bin, try the normal recipe, and then you get something eatable. But I like experimenting with food and with recipes, and that's exactly what I do in science. There is this recipe to test this hypothesis, and then you just twiddle a bit and try to make it better, or if it doesn't work. If it does work, then you just follow that recipe all the time. And you might twiddle it a bit again and make it a bit better. And that's what scientists do. They just test hypotheses and twiddle a bit, and then it might work, it might not work. Doesn't work, put it in the bin, try another one. Well, you can't put in the bin the thousands of pounds of things cost in the lab. But anyway, so that's why I became a scientist. But why scientist of the brain? Brain was so powerful to me in my life. It was something so, I couldn't describe what I felt about the brain. But also, it came from when I was about 9, I think it was 9, yeah. And I used to go every week to my grandparents. They were really old, and they went everywhere. They lived like 5 minutes from me, and there was this day that my grandma came to me and started saying that the neighbor, the woman living next to them, was a witch. It was like, I just took it as a joke. She was messing with me. It wasn't real, and she would tell me that every single week. And there was one day that my mom said, Ale, don't trust everything your grandma says, because she's got a problem with her head. She didn't say brain, but it was with her head, and it's called schizophrenia. And it was like, what's that? So she told me that she had lots of delusions. I had no idea what a delusion was. Mm-hmm. It was the first time that I actually learned that some people could actually see and hear and think things that were not actually real. And that struck me. That was big. It was like, whoa, so it means she's losing her mind. If you lose an arm, you lose a leg, you lose even an internal organ, sometimes you can survive, you can still be yourself. But if you lose your head, you can't be yourself. You can be a human being, but you are not precisely yourself. So that was a powerful feeling at the moment I was 9. And even more later on, when I was 12, one of my uncles, who I loved going to the countryside with, we had lots of funny moments, and we just ran and rode the bike, and lots of exercise in the countryside. We loved it. And with my brother too, of course. And there was, he progressively started feeling very tired after a bit of exercise, a bit of riding. I was like, come on, let's go another mile or another kilometer, not miles in Spain. And you know, the beautiful countryside with my uncle, and suddenly I couldn't do it anymore. You know, Spain is beautiful, the south, it's hot, it is warm, you can just go stroll for a while, it's nice. And I couldn't do it anymore with my uncle. I could do it on my own, he just couldn't. And there was this one day in which he just plummeted on the ground. He just lost his vision for just suddenly and his leg control. He just couldn't move them and dropped on the ground. No one around him to help him. And there was a man passing by and he just called the ambulance. That day we learned that he had a brain disease that's called multiple sclerosis. And suddenly you have these relapses in which you lose some senses, and they are usually pretty random, the senses you lose. And you just lose them suddenly because your own body attacks your brain. And that is always really powerful for me. I was 12 at that point. He was 21. Imagine a 21-year-old young man who loses everything he was. He was an exercise. He liked exercising and everything, and he just couldn't do it anymore. So that was powerful for me. And I told him, as a little child, 12-year-old, I will cure your disease. I will cure multiple sclerosis. Yeah, how little did I know about science at that time. It was something that drove me. I wanted to be a medical doctor. I didn't get the enough marks to get into medicine, and I'm very happy about it because that wasn't for me. What was for me was researching in the lab, being biochemist. I learned about biochemistry. I was like, yeah, I want to do that. That's pretty cool. So now I do research in the brain. I don't do research in multiple sclerosis as I thought I would do when I was 12. I do research in a much more powerful disease that kills people very soon. It's amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, as many other people know it, Stephen Hawking's disease, or as even more people know it, the ice bucket challenge disease. So I guess most of you know 2 years ago there was this huge campaign in the world in which people just put ice and water in huge buckets and just throw it over them. Either that or paying some money to the ALS Association. Yes, some people just did it for the fun, but you know, you can't control what people do with money. So many people, actually lots of money lots of funding were collected that way. This is a disease that, try to imagine for a moment that someone tells you that you're gonna die in 2 or 3 years. And that death is not gonna be like this. You're gonna start suffering through the months. Sometimes it takes longer. You see Stephen Hawking, he's had it for 50-something years. That's very rare. Usually die in 2 or 3 years in this very painful, not the pain itself, but the fact that you can't move and you progressively lose lymph movement, and someday you can't walk, and then you can't use your hands, and then you can't speak, and one day you can't breathe because your muscles that make you breathe stop working, and then you die. That's really terrible. And yeah, I'm doing research to try to find how this works, because we have no idea how this works. We have some knowledge about how it works, but seriously, every case is different, and it's so complicated to find common ground. So I'm gonna give you a crash course in what I do in for my research. So I brought a neuron. I hope you all know what a neuron is. It doesn't look like this, but it resembles this enough. So it's got a head, or a cell body. So it's got a big cell body. They're huge. Neurons are very big. You compare to other cells in the body, and they're really big. So huge cell body, and then lots of other processes coming out of the cell body. But there's one long one called the axon, and that's through which they send the information, through which they send the electrical signals that neurons send. And the brain is divided in 2 parts. There's the white part and there's the gray part. This part is in the gray part of the body, and the axons are on the white part. So they send the electrical signals, and some of them are called motor neurons, and they send electrical signals to make your muscles move. And you don't think about it. You just move them. You don't have to think about moving your body. You just move it. That's because these electrical signals that they send to the muscle, which could be here, are really fast. They're really, really fast. And why are they so fast? I have another prep. I need a volunteer who's going to help me. So, on this side.
They know each other.
Yeah. May I present you my girlfriend, Josefa? So, in the brain, there's not just neurons. Many people think that we only use 10% of the brain. That's because 10% of the brain is neurons. But the other 90% is other cells, among which, in the white matter, in the white part of the brain, these are the most common. These are called oligodendrocytes. I told you, I'm not very good at drawing. It's not really good. But anyway, it's enough to explain to you. So again, there's a cell body, and they have processes which are much shorter than that. And at the end, there's something called myelin. They make myelin. Myelin is a fatty substance. It's lots of fat and protein. Basically, the myelin wraps the axon. Okay. I don't want to bend the balloon, it's beautiful. So they wrap the axon like that in the same way that the plastic wraps the copper in the cables that you use for TV, for electricity. So they wrap it like that, and there are many of them wrapping every single bit of it, so the signal is fast, really fast. I told you don't even have to think about moving the finger, you just move it. So, of course, if these guys fail at wrapping the axon becomes vulnerable, and the signal can't go as fast as it should. And these guys actually fail, but we don't know how they fail in amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. We know that they fail. So my hypothesis, I'm going to start to explain to you with more volunteers. I want 2 more volunteers that come here. Anyone, you can come. You're closest to me. So yeah. So say goodbye to the neuron. And say hello to the message. So, in the oligodendrocyte, you saw there's a cell body, and there's a myelin compartment. So, to make myelin, the information on how to make myelin has to travel from one side to the other, because the cell body has the information in the DNA. But the other end is the one that's going to make the myelin. So they have to know how to make the myelin. So, how to make the myelin? This is the message that we're going to deliver. You are the cell body, you are the DNA, and you are the one that makes the myelin. And you are going to be the deliverer. You're going to be the message, the messenger. So, I want you to, you have it. You have to give it to the messenger that's going to bring it. And then the messenger has to go to the other side of the cell, give it to the builder, and then she reads it, and she can actually build myelin and wrap the axon with myelin. All right? So that would be an ideal world. But then we have ALS. And my hypothesis, what I'm trying to see, what I'm going to tell you now is not true. It's my hypothesis. It's what I think happens, and I'm trying to test it. But there is no definite evidence that tells me that it's like that, but that's what I think. So there is a mutation that happens a lot in ALS. In 10% of the cases, that's about 200 and something thousand people in the world. So they have this mutation. I'm going to be the mutation. It makes a molecule that is very unstable, and it tries to kidnap things. So again, you are the DNA. You're going to give him the message. And he has delivery, and midway, I get him, and the message doesn't get there. So if he doesn't get the message, myelin is not produced in enough quantities. There will be other messengers going, and I can't kidnap all of them. But some of them will get there, but less of them will get there, and less myelin will be produced. Myelin will be badly produced, and that's what I think happens in this specific case of ALS. So big round of applause to our volunteers. Thank you. So yeah, now you know what I tried to do. And now you know how a little 4-year-old boy came who liked cooking with his mom and telling her mom everything he found about and asking about everything, a very annoying guy. became someone who trying to find even the cause of some myelin diseases and some diseases which are terrible for the brain and that stop making you yourself. So be yourself, have a nice evening, and thank you for listening.